Hello and welcome. I am the Letter Hack, and with me now is a very special guest, a political analyst, news commentator, as well as co-host on several shows from the TYT network and host of his very own YouTube show, Politics and Paper. It's Jackson White. Jackson, thanks for being here. How are you?
Oh yeah, man, I'm great, and thank you for having me here. I was really excited, because like I was telling you, I've been off Twitter, well, it's X now for a while, and that's where we originally connected. But thanks to Brother Soul Life, you know what I'm saying, we're here today, so I'm really excited
Yeah.
about that. We got a free Soul Life, man. We got to keep this movement going. We got to get him out of chat jail.
Yeah, and this is the thing though, is he's been kicked out of a lot of chats, is my understanding.
Yeah,
So this is just the
barely.
beginning.
Yeah, nah,
People
man. We need more of a sense of humor. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, people misunderstand that cat. It's all
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, thanks to him for connecting this. That was awesome.
absolutely.
And this is the 56th interview guest that I've had you, and 56 since February. So I've been doing like a
You've been
bunch of these.
busy. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've been busy.
and he's been requesting you like pretty consistently. So
Yeah,
you got
man.
a lot of support.
Soul Life's cool as hell, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
I've really been humbled by the support. The encouragement has been really amazing. Because sometimes I'm 31, so like I'm an adult, but still kind of fresh on the path of what I'm really doing. So it's always good to have encouragement and belief from people. It kind of helps paint the path forward for you. So
Yeah.
TYT's community has been really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about this because I'm going to get in on the drawing. And like I always do, I ask my guests to give us, kind of your origin story. So, while I start, how is it that you came to be in this line of work and your own YouTube show?
Man, very, very unorthodoxically, in a very, very non-traditional manner. I do not have a college degree. So I didn't really have like a clean cut path here in the sense that like I was always ready to do this. But ironically enough, it's interesting when you look back, there's a lot of foreshadowing and things. I always would just kind of say, I want to be a journalist, which I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I'm an analyst, but I always was interested in politics and somehow I ended up here. But I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, um, born and raised. And I played sports growing up. I'm biracial. My dad's black, mom's white, and I played sports. My friends, pretty much all my friends, were athletes. Several of them made it professional. Um, one of whom is Walter Powell. He and I started Politiscope together eventually, and but a couple other people. But pretty much in high school I played too because I'm 6'6", like
Yeah.
200 plus pounds. So like I've been an athlete and stuff my whole life. But I think early on I kind of developed the courage to do what I felt was right for me. And in high school, like I kind of just started to lose interest in like pursuing basketball and other sports. And it was, like I was, not to say I was never good enough to like be some type of mega superstar, but if I would have stuck with it, like I could have, probably played overseas, went to college for it or something like that. But I feel like that just wasn't right for me. And so I stopped playing ball, and then I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And but I did go to college. And when I went to college, I made straight A's. In high school, I didn't do that good though. So I went to college and I didn't really know what I was there for. Um and so I ended up dropping out after 3 semesters. And I got involved in a startup called GoParty.com and another one called XL Urban Media. Um, with a guy named Rashid and Antoine. They're both from St. Louis too. And what Go Party did, and this is how I got involved, like officially in like small business entrepreneurship type of stuff. I was 18. I'm 31 now. And basically, what Go Party was, it was kind of like a like a search engine for nightlife events in a lot of ways. So like you could kind of like type in where you were and it would bring up what was going on in the city and stuff like that. And XL Urban Media, you remember that you remember World Star?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like XL Urban Media was kind of like that, but like a little less ratchet. You know what I mean? Like a little bit more family friendly, I guess. And that went pretty well. But around that same time, I started I sold drugs for a long time. I sold weed and like prescription pills like Ritalin and stuff like that. And I learned pretty early on and that not going to college is not necessarily a good idea. Even even if you don't really know exactly what you want to do, I made it work. But I just say that to say I've had a lot of jobs. You know what I'm saying? Like I've worked a ton of jobs, sales jobs, restaurant jobs, but I ended up selling a lot of weed and prescription medications, and luckily, I never got into any type of real trouble with the law doing that. I mean, it's not that that's like anything crazy, you know what I mean? But that's a lot of what I did to make money. But I also, after Go Party and XL Urban Media, I yeah, man, a good friend of mine. We're still really cool. His stage name is A Game. He's a music artist. He's from St. Louis, but he and I and a couple other people, um, we did music organization, and so we threw a lot of shows, all different types of genres, hip hop shows. We did country music shows a few times. We did heavy metal shows, all types of stuff, events in and out of St. Louis, and we ended up touring mainly throughout the South and the West Coast. And at the time we were in our early 20s. So we would be in a lot of college towns. So like, we would do like 4 or 5 city tours that we paid for ourselves. Um, from money that we made at our jobs, money that we made selling this, selling that, and money that we made in the business. The company is called Frat House Productions. And we ended up all together before I moved to New Jersey. We collectively we put together roughly 300 events. We were busy.
Wow.
We were really really busy over 6 years. So we were really busy. We ended up doing multiple shows a month because we worked with other people. Like we would book acts and stuff like that, and ticket sales and things along those lines. But it was a lot of fun. And even today, like I'm really music is just I just love music. Um, I absolutely love music. My family's very musical. My mom and dad have traveled around in college. My dad, he went to Morehouse College. That's a historically black college, and there's a men's choir called the Glee Club. And my dad traveled around the world singing with the Glee Club from Morehouse College. And so I kind of came about that naturally. I grew up listening to everything and shit like that. So, oh, I'm sorry, curse. But I grew up
Oh,
listening.
whatever you want.
Okay, cool. I won't be ridiculous. I won't be ridiculous. But yeah, so music was kind of just always really a heavy part of my life. And my parents are older. My dad was born in 1951. My mom shortly after that. So I grew up listening to jazz, blues, all types of stuff. But another thing that I really a heavy influence that I got from my dad was politics for sure. He's a psychologist. Um, much of his work was in marital counseling in St. Louis. But it's just interesting looking back how much you're like your parents, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? Um, I'm sorry, what?
No, I just real quick. Do you think, because it just occurred to me when you were talking earlier about your stature and your size, right? And big dude. Like I'm 5'8". Like, my neck would hurt if we were standing next to each other I'd be like, "Can we sit down and talk?" But it does that give you confidence because you're doing all this entrepreneurial stuff. You're out there, you're more than a self-starter. You're out there being innovative. And You advocate for what you believe in, for progressive values, I guess, and what you think is right as far as like policy and what the people deserve, right, from elected officials. Is that Do you think that comes from being tall? I mean, is that crazy to think?
Well, I mean, I would say that I've learned to use it to my advantage, not like in a bullying way, but just, like, um yeah, I mean, it definitely gives me advantages in all types of ways. Like just kind of having a presence, but also I think it's important to note that, if I wasn't who I was, then my height and what I look like really wouldn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? Like, because we all know people who are maybe very, you would never expect them to maybe give off much, but they just bring a power about themselves. So it's really so much more about who we are inherently. But for me, I would say I've definitely been blessed to be able to use it in a sense of, like, I mean, America kind of has a superficial culture. You know what I'm saying? And so it's not all bad, but just like as my brand continues to grow, like I think I have an opportunity to, like, tap into some of the entertainment space to broaden the progressive movement. Because a lot of my work in politics has really shifted to local, like city council type of stuff, getting people more involved with local political initiatives, because so much more can happen. There's less bureaucracy involved. For instance, in the city I'm from, in St. Louis, where I grew up, the town called University City. Um, Anybody who's enrolled in the public school, from when they're kindergarten, they have a college savings account open for them, and by the time they graduate from high school, they can have up to $500 of savings. So, like, if they do, like, do well in school, participate in extracurricular stuff, and that is funded by, like, parking meters and like tickets and stuff like that. So, like, things that can really directly impact the lives of people in townships. Oftentimes, we don't realize that, the mayor and everybody that the mayor deals with is really in charge of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's back up to where you said that you don't consider yourself a journalist, because I always ask my guests who do exactly what you do, are you a journalist? And people who have degrees in journalism will say, no. It has like a negative connotation. The word journalism makes people think it's, I don't know, highfalutin. You know what I mean? Like it's delusional or something. But do you think, even if you aren't a legit proper journalist, you're still doing some form of journalism? And do you think that people who do what you do should have journalistic integrity, standards, and cite sources and make sure they got their facts straight? Or is it shooting from the hip?
Well, so for me, the reason I don't call myself a journalist is because, honestly, for me, journalists are some of the, toughest and bravest people among us. Not that I don't have that kind of courage, but it's not put into the avenues that real journalists do. So, for instance, like, journalists risk their lives, you know what I mean? Like, collecting information. They're the ones who do the interviews. They're the ones who give me people like me. I'm an analyst. So
Gotcha.
first come the journalists, then come the analysts. And so that's why I don't call myself a journalist. One, I just, I have a high school diploma. And for me, like, that, for my influence, that can be inspiring. You know what I'm saying? Like, because kind of like I'm just some dude who, like, made something of himself, which can be inspiring. But ironically enough, I'm like, don't do what I did. Take your ass to school. But um, but yeah, no, I think that, at the end of the day, I'm gonna be, like, real. You know, people can choose to have integrity or not. But, like, when you're growing an audience, and, like, I'm in a space now where, like, I'm starting to really catch a groove. My community around me is strong. We're going into an election year, and my experience allows me to know that I'm about to see a lot of growth. I have a choice to make. Either I can stay authentic or I can just tell people what they want to hear. But that's going to, that could blow up your audience and just get you an audience capture. So now all you can say is what this particular set of people want to hear. So then it just becomes like entertainment. And there's always entertainment value to people, watching you on a screen. But like, you know, I might not always be right, but what I want my audience and anybody who watches me to know is at the end of the day, I'm being real, I'm being authentic, I'm telling you what I think, and I'm telling you what you need to know. And not just like, I don't want to, I'm not gonna a lot of people have complaints about different people who are in this space. But again, a lot of what I see is people just kind of get lost in the money. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
ways to make money.
Yeah.
And I think that it's too important right now to get caught up in that. So I don't consider myself a journalist because I think journalists are better than me, honestly.
People get addicted to the clicks, but I like that perspective that you think journalists are front lines. First comes
Absolutely.
journalism, then comes analyst. That's how you said it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
I like that.
Because like at the end of the day, if there's some type of political initiative going on, if there's lobbyists who are trying to get a bill for a coal company, or it could be whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. The journalists are the ones in there interviewing the lobbyists, getting together what's in the paperwork, and writing it down, and then the analysts basically take a look at that, and then maybe do it, like broaden it out, so connect it to other data. So, like for instance, a journalist in Houston, Texas might interview a bunch of Planned Parenthoods who are going out of, like who are being shut down or something like that. And then an analyst will look at what's happening in Texas, what's happening in Mississippi, what's happening in Florida, what's happening in New York, and then try to basically tell their audience this is what you can expect in the election. This is why people are showing up to the polls. For instance, like a great example, actually, a really good example. Like a lot of the polls will show Democrats losing to Republicans. But then when election times come around, and this has happened since 2018, Democrats overperform at the polls. So, me as an analyst, I'm trying to figure out what exactly is the reason for this. And from my analysis, what I can see is the end of the day, the reversal of Roe v. Wade, incredibly unpopular. Republican states being incredibly adamant about pushing 6-week abortion bans, that being attached to ballot initiatives in Kansas and Ohio. Voters showing up, even Republican voters showing up to be like, no, we don't want these 6-week bans. So looking at policy rather than, okay, well, this poll shows Trump beating Biden, but at the end of the day, the election's next year. And when it's actually time to show up to the polls, Republicans haven't been winning. So that's what I'm supposed to do as an analyst. I'm supposed to be like, this is what's going on. But what happens is a lot of analysts will be like, what does my very progressive audience want to hear? Because I know y'all probably don't like Joe Biden. So they're going to want to hear me just talk bad about Joe Biden instead of just saying this is why Democrats are winning. Or it could be the opposite end. It could be like a right wing audience doesn't want to hear anything bad about Donald Trump. So I'm real careful not to say that. But I'm cultivating an audience to where it's like whether you agree with me or not, I'm not playing you. So that's it.
So that's the other thing I ask people is how much influence do you want to have? Do you set out to change minds of your audience, or are you putting the information out there in a digestible manner for them to do with what they will? And as an analyst, I have to think it's the latter, right? You aren't trying to change minds, or is there some of that?
Well, I think inevitably, just me being a human being, like I'm my bias, and with like my shows that I do a variety of streams. So I have a daily stream where I'm going over the news, but I also have shows where I'm talking about like Batman and the Justice League and other things. So I talk about a variety of subjects. But for my analysis, I'm more so just trying to let you know what's really going on. That's how I want to do it. Because at the end of the day, for me, what's more important is what am I actually doing in the streets? Because you can have a big audience and a bunch of people watching you, but like is this audience funneling money to maybe progressive campaigns or small businesses that need help? So my membership program, for instance, is totally centered on community service and, again, local political initiatives. Going into 2024, I'm setting up a nonprofit right now that's completely focused on helping people to take advantage of accommodations that they can get to the polls. Like if you're handicapped, if you have an opportunity to vote early, about, like stuff like that. Um, who are you voting for? Who's in the elections? What have they voted for and against? Stuff like that. So for me, as my influence grows, if I'm not doing stuff like starting nonprofits that fund progressive campaigns, start, helping small businesses that maybe cater to communities in some way, that's the real work to me. So, you know, which is more important than and two, I think a better way to say it is that's real influence. I can have a bunch of people and a bunch of money ultimately in the next 5 years, but if I'm not actually shifting them in the political process, go vote for this person, like, or this is what's up with this election. That's real political work. I'm not just trying to be a guy that people listen to. I'm trying to be out here. If you gonna give me money, I'm gonna use it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's it.
Sounds like a discussion that I've had with guests on here is, and these questions are essentially the same for every interview, but I allow them to evolve on based on previous replies and answers. And you're giving me stuff that makes me want to evolve these questions right now. I just aside, you're a very authentic guy. I feel
Thank you.
like it's just inevitable that your audience is gonna trust you. You know what I mean? And that could be very powerful to gain the trust of your audience early on because like you were saying, you see that go wrong all the time. But if you're doing things like starting nonprofits and giving people resources to be able to make a difference, it's so much more than just saying, here's what you should do. It's
Hmm.
saying, here's how you can do what you should do. And I think that that is, like I say, very authentic. Now, one of the discussions I've had with previous guests is that um, local community leadership is well, and I guess I always ask the question is that sort of community leadership more valuable than electoral politics? Should we be weighing them, which is more important? Because the way I look at it is some of the worst policy decisions out there are on the state and local level, like school boards and city councils. They're trying to do like some really horrible stuff, right? And so I wonder, do you think that it's local leaders, like I'm talking about guys like yourself, unelected but trustworthy individuals who show up, who step up? Um, are they the key to increasing public awareness and raising broader concerns for certain issues? Or do we at the end of the day have to just vote for the right guy or the lesser of two evils and hope for the best?
I think this is a very, very good question because I think it really cuts into, in my opinion, how the progressive movement can improve going forward. Um, from what I can see, we're kind of at the end of an era, the kind of that Bill Clinton Reagan era. We're kind of at the end of it in terms of literally the people who ran it. They're 80, you know what I'm saying? They're 75, they're
Yeah.
79. Their time is just coming to an end. That happens in society, every 100 or so years. You know what I'm saying? Kind of there's opportunity for fresh blood to really step up and take leadership. So from an electoral standpoint, and not so much in 24, but in 2028 on a federal level, we're going to see a lot of fresh faces. But what I've really learned is that the longer I've been involved in politics, the more I realize that so many of us overlook how much we can do, you know, how much more of a responsibility we need to take within ourselves to improve our own backyards. And oftentimes we just don't really know how these things work. We don't know that, city council does what it does. We don't know that the mayor hires police chiefs. That we don't know necessarily that people in positions to strike the gavel to get people in and out of prison oftentimes are elected locally.
Mhm.
Um, and two, I think also a lot of people aren't aware of the awesome, amazing programs that have been pushed through local townships because you get so much attention on what's going on federally. But what's important is everybody can't be in office. I don't particularly think I'm going to be in an elected position, appointed probably, but I don't know. But what you can do is, can you tutor some kids after school? Can you be a better person in general? Call your mom, call your friend, apologize to people that you need to apologize to. Do some introspection, grow on purpose, be a better person. Like it sounds cliche, but as I've overcome things like my own arrogance, and which is still there, you know what I'm saying? But like just certain elements of that, as I've overcome certain things like that, I realize how much better I'm able to be to other people for no reason. How much my viewpoint of things shift. Like, oh, these people aren't out to attack me necessarily. I'm just, you know, um, be a better person, and then get involved where you can. It's really that simple, and so many of us don't try. We're waiting for that special leader, but they ain't coming.
Yeah, along those lines, do you think it's possible to have like a strong mass political organizing or leftist movement in this country without a national figurehead? And if we do need some one person in the lead, does that have to be a politician? And if not, who?
I think that what the left needs to do, in that regard specifically, that's something that's really not in anybody's control. You know what I'm saying? Like who that person would be that would be, maybe in a position to be elected federally. So again,
Mm.
it doesn't have to be somebody who's in a position like that. If somebody's in a position to help direct people to the polls, to help direct funding to causes that matter, to help, feed the hungry, stuff like that. There's initiatives to do things like open up public grocery stores that are publicly funded in lower income neighborhoods, things like that. Making them happen. You don't have to be in office. You just have to be of influence. So I think that really what I've learned is, you know, I think local politics are just more important than having a broad leader. Because even if we got somebody, let's say Bernie Sanders won in 2020, let's say that happened. Or I mean, yeah, in 2020, let's say that happened. There's still so much in the way. You know what I mean? Like there's so many levels of
Yeah.
bureaucracy. There's so much corruption. There's so much in the way. But local politics can change your school district. It can change the roads, the conditions of the bridges. It can change so many subtle things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And that actually is how the right has been very effective, because even though their policy positions are very unpopular, they still are able to get people in position, judge positions, prosecutorial positions, um, these local seats. So I think local politics really is the way forward.
Um, this, in my opinion, is media activism, which frankly could just be advocacy for something. Voter registration, voting at all, labor organizing, whatever. It sounds like you have a real like you're leaning into what I have identified as media activism. Do you think that podcast hosts have a responsibility to advocate for something or try to inspire, what they call boots on the ground? Is that fair? Is that realistic to expect of your average podcast host or YouTube show?
Um, I think people are gonna show what they're about, and you got to make the decision on if you're gonna stay with them and why you're there. You know, somebody's message could be just fine. You could watch somebody just because you find them entertaining, and that's all fine and good. But I think that at the end of the day, the people who are going to make the most difference are going to be the ones who do real advocacy. Um, and Ultimately those people are going to just elevate in positions of leadership, no matter what that may mean. It could mean that their platform continues to grow. It could mean they start foundations. It could mean a number of things. But I think that at least for me, I think you can waste a lot of emotional energy. You only have so much of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I think we can waste a lot of emotional energy expecting people to do things when they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes what you're looking for in somebody, it isn't there. You know what I'm saying? And if it's not there, it ain't there. So, you know,
Do you think mainstream media or online media in general has the potential or the ability to affect politicians' strategies or maybe just I don't know about policy, but just do you think that politicians pay attention to the media? And does the media in general have a responsibility to try and, get the best out of our elected officials and policy?
I think that excuse me. I think that politicians pay attention to the media at different times. Um, you know, for instance, the media, what the media will do, and they've been doing this for years, and I've been taking notes on it. These polls will come out, and it'll be like, this poll said this, and it's not that polls are meaningless; they do mean something. But it'll be like, why have you been talking about this for the last 3 days?
Yeah.
And then when the election comes about, what the media said doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like the red wave that didn't happen. But Democrats had very resounding victories last week, again off simple policy lines, and the media is already like, poll came out, Joe Biden's going to lose. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so I just say that to say, like, I think what politicians pay more attention to is who's actually showing up to the polls
Hmm.
more than anything else. But I think what really matters is going forward. I think people who have a lot of influence in the media can have more of an impact because you have to utilize the ability to threaten people. And I'm not talking out of pettiness, but in the game of power, these are people who are in positions to where with the stroke of a pen, they can decide how well or not you eat, how well or not you drink. Like the governor elect in Louisiana doesn't see. I don't know if in the audience, if y'all from the South, but in New Orleans and throughout Louisiana, there's a lot of salt water in the water supply. Katrina wouldn't have had as much damage as it did if those levees were fixed earlier. But the governor elect, so I'll just say infrastructure problems could have been fixed many years ago. The governor elect, he's like, I want to withhold infrastructure funding until we prosecute women who have sought abortions. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
what what do you do with people like this other than defeat them? What do you? I mean, you can't work with this. These people are crazy. And there's a lot of that, more and more of that in office, and it's not always that extreme, but it could be more light to where it's just like, like we don't want to expand Medicare. Like that's a bit less sinister. It still has very negative effects, but it's not like screw your water. But still, what do you do with that other than defeat it? How can I push you to do the right thing? If I have power, if I have a lot of people listening to me, and more importantly, like what we're talking about, you know, having nonprofits, small businesses, getting people in office here and there, then you actually have a network of things to where you'd be like, look, bruh, if you don't sign this contract, I'm gonna make life hard for you. Don't got to break the law. You know what I'm saying? But because again, these are people who are elected. These are elected officials. Like you're supposed to serve the public. So I think that going forward, there needs to be more of a willingness to fight. And I think that there's a lot of that there, but it has to be more than just making a lot of noise. It has to be like, you know, we gonna have a rally here. Like I'll fund this candidate. I'll yeah, I'll tell your district what you did and what you said. stuff like that, because that's really how politics works behind the scenes. You feel me? Like we don't want to get to violence, but again, what are we really talking about? We're talking about people who are denying you access to healthcare, denying you access to affordable education, denying you access to drinking water that doesn't have lead in it, stuff like
Right.
that. So I think that these are people that we can be willing to fight and beat, so but let's not get too carried away.
Well,
you know.
I don't know how you feel about online debate culture, but I gotta ask because you know what you're talking about and you exude confidence and you obviously aren't just speaking off the cuff about this stuff. Do, do you care to debate people? Would you ever do that? Do you get requests for that from the debate bros?
um I would be okay to do that. I personally don't am not really pursuing doing that, because I think I have kind of a different lane to capitalize on, kind of more of just the, kind of being in a cool space, like being a part of cool things within the industry, you know what I mean, helping to influence. I think that's just kind of more me, because um for me, I think debates can be interesting, but I think it's just more of an entertainment type of thing. If you want to do well at it, you got to prepare. Even if you know what you're talking about, like, like it's something you have to really invest in. And I, as I continue to become more busy, unless it's something that would be good faith. If it's some good faith stuff, absolutely, I'll sit down and have a discussion. But if it's just like, oh, I have a feeling that this is just going to be a shouting match, then I don't personally want to be involved in that type of stuff, because I feel like, yeah, you could get a lot of views with that, but I'd rather sit down with people and like really talk things through. Um,
You know, you don't have to name names, and maybe it's your own audience or people in your audience, but is there anyone in your life that can instantly shift your way of thinking? Like you're set, you got it all figured out on this one topic. Somebody comes along who you trust and admire, they have a different perspective, and you're like, man, I got to rethink it.
Honestly, I don't know if I could say there's like, if the individual matters. I'm somebody, if something makes sense, it makes sense. And especially where I'm at in my life now, I still, you know, I, s- I I'm more open to just the journey, and not having to be the best in my mind all the time. So like, if and I think this too is helping with my approach, for instance, like with the authentic approach with the audience, because people will know, people disagree with me often, like in terms of like maybe how I think something's gonna play out. Like maybe like I think maybe it'll play out like this, and someone will disagree with it. Now, what you'll see is often, and this, I mean, this is a human trait. This isn't something that you'll just see like with people online, but like
Mhm.
some, it can be difficult to be corrected, or it can be difficult to be disagreed with. And like what a lot of commentators might do, if their audience disagrees with them, they'll like get mad at them, or they'll like try to be right. My approach is like, who am I at the end of the day, really? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's kind of, I think being like sure of myself, but also like not taking myself really seriously at all, like kind of just being a funny guy, helps people to trust me, because like I'm just having a good time with you when I want to make a difference. Like I'm not, I don't care about being right all the time, because who is, so nobody
That
is.
that to me is the most legit way to proclaim that someone is legit. Because you hear people all the time go, I'm legit. And it's like, can you say that and be legit? But if the way you just worded that is in my mind, I was like, he's legit. It's the real deal. And that's why I keep going
Appreciate
back
it.
to authentic. And it's not even like a strategy, is it? It's not your approach. This is just who you are, right?
It's definitely, it's who I am for sure. That just in terms of being authentic, but also, like in terms of like building like my YouTube platform, for instance, or just really, you know, what am I really doing? Where am I really going? There's a lot of different things I have interest in, things that I'd like to start, things that I'd like to be a part of. And getting there, I've realized, is only possible if I'm as authentic as I possibly can be, because only then can I learn what I need to learn, put in the work that I need to put in, not get caught up in things like how many people saw this, how many people are watching me, just doing it, just living and breathing it, being open to taking new opportunities. And also, most importantly, with that approach, I've come to find that pretty much everybody who I attract is the same in a lot of ways. They too are very authentic, or at least that core base, that core foundation that I'm building upon, are also very authentic individuals. Many of whom are older than me and more experienced than me in many ways. People who have families, people who are married, have lived completely different lifestyles. People who, they vote so much they vote for the dog catcher. People
Right.
who have, attorneys, doctors, like all of these people who really, it seems, just want to do what they can. And if I'm somebody who can cultivate not just an audience, but a movement of people who are ready to take action, then not only do I need to do this right, I have to do this right. You know what I mean? Like, I have
Mhm.
to succeed. I have to do this because apparently I'm supposed to be doing this, because I don't know how the hell I ended up here. You know what I'm saying? Like, out of all
Right.
the stuff that I mean, like, I've been involved in so many things, and but like, if I feel like if I'm here, then then I have a calling to just really do this for real. So I'm just open. You know what I mean?
Um, if if you had the opportunity to be president or advisor to the president, and I'm talking about president of the US, which would you choose, president or advisor?
Advisor,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Um, because
Last guy in the room sort of thing, everyone leaves, the president looks to you. What do you think? That
yeah,
guy?
that's I've come to find that that's who I've always been. And and I think that I'll be able to operate most effectively that way. Especially as I continue to capitalize kind of more on that entertainment aspect of American culture, because I can kind of be a guy like, you don't really know what I'm up to. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Like, you do, but not really. Like, I kind of want people to not take me that seriously, if you'd like, because that'll just make it easier for me to do things like fund this campaign, be in this person's ear, be in that person's ear. You know what I'm saying? Um, if I have an opportunity to be in an elected position, I absolutely would take it. But I think that, honestly, I think I would. My person. I don't know if I have the personality for it. I, I'm too you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I would get a lot of I feel like I would get in trouble a lot for saying this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't know, man. Joe Biden's president,
yeah, yeah.
so
Well, Joe
the
Biden's
king of gas.
president
Yeah,
and Donald Trump was president
yeah.
before him.
There's
I
no
mean,
getting in trouble, but I know what you mean.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think I probably am just more effective on the outside,
Do you
personally.
think do you think it's more important for progressive candidates, whether it's for president or whatever, local Congress, whatever? Do you think it's more important for them to try and gain Republican votes or get people to the polls that don't vote at all? Because if you just go off of what the mainstream says, in my opinion, they want us to think, "Oh, well, how are you going to get the Trump supporters on your side?" And I'm like, "Do we need to do that?" Because there's this whole group of people in the country, like the majority, that don't vote at all. Like, can we why aren't we trying to get them to the polls? So what do you think's more important for, say, a progressive or non-Republican candidate?
Yeah, definitely not trying to convert MAGA voters. I mean, if if you're like really hard on Team MAGA, it's probably because of one or two things. One, I'll give you some grace. You're probably like 21, 22 years old, and you just don't really know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you some grace because, I'm 31, and once you get out of your 20s, you realize like I was a kid throughout my entire 20s. I was a kid. So I'll give you some grace if you're like 20 or 21. But if you're older than that, you're kind of, I mean, why are you on Team Trump? Because you feel like the country's being taken and blah, blah, blah. So you're just not going to get them on your side because they're fundamentally, at least right now, against the idea of you. So absolutely, definitely people who don't typically show up to the polls. And just politically and strategically, um, people who show up to the polls are not ideologically driven. They show up to the polls for things like I don't want my abortion access taken away. I want I want to keep my Medicare. Like that's typically like the people who go to the polls consistently. It's people who go because like if they don't, like maybe this one particular program is keeping them alive or this one particular program is, keeping their jobs intact in the town. So absolutely going after people who, have a good reason to show up to the polls, a better reason than I don't like Mexicans and I hate gay people. Like that's not a good reason to show up to the polls. They do show up to the polls for that, but like really getting people to see like what they're actually voting for. And again, local elections. I think that if people realized how much more they can vote, there won't be so much pressure every 4 years. There's no such thing as an off year election. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like every election is very important. So like the more I've learned about how much is really going on and how much of an opportunity that we all have to get involved, it kind of makes it easier because it's like, a lot of people may feel like, well, or here, I'll put it like this is the last thing I'll say. One of the biggest reasons that Democrats win, even though progressives oftentimes say, I'm not going to show up to the polls, is because progressives typically don't show up to the polls anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Ah,
So it's not a loss. It's not a loss of votes. You didn't show up anyway. So now so like what Democrats will really start to take L's is again like in these swing states with the loss in the Muslim votes, like stuff like now that's where you really got to start paying attention, or like the black vote or stuff like that. But if it like when it's just like the youth vote, when you really look at the numbers, these people don't vote anyway. So what that means is if we vote more often, our vote will really make a difference if we say we ain't gonna do it for you this time because we show up to vote for the mayor, we show up to vote at city council, we show up to vote for ballot measures. Only if we utilize the power of our vote will it really mean something. So I think that as a progressive, just to close out, we got to go after the people who don't vote typically. And people have to realize that you got to vote, man, because if you don't, it doesn't matter if you don't. You know what I mean? Like it's really simple, but it's the truth. Like, and I think about that for how many times have I not voted? I'm not going to show up to the polls. I never show up to the damn polls. Who cares? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's powerful. It's really a powerful thing, and we have the right to do it. And that is why Republicans work so hard to take it away. The Democrats are corrupt, sure, absolutely. But why are Republicans doing everything they can to make it harder to vote? Because don't nobody want to vote for them.
Yeah. Um, my thing is, and I think this might be kind of controversial. I always say there is no one good politician because even if you have the best of intentions, as soon as you're a part of this thing, you're at least systemically corrupt. And so you can't really do anything without a caucus. And so to rely on a politician to lead the way isn't a thing to me.
Yeah.
Like what we need is to rely on hundreds of like-minded politicians to lead the way, and really then you can have substantial change. But let me ask you this. If because I don't want to keep you here all night, although I'm really enjoying this
Oh yeah, I'm
discussion.
having a,
But
I'm having a good time. I'm having a
yeah,
great time.
this is exceeded my expectations. But um if if your livelihood didn't depend on it, right? And or any of the reasons why you do what you do, is this what you would be doing, or is there some sort of dream job that you've always wanted? Like for me, it's I went on honeymoon on my honeymoon in Tulum, Mexico, and I was just watching this kid like clean seaweed off the beach, and I was like, I want more for him, but I personally I would love to have that job. Like if I didn't have to
It,
do anything else but
isn't
that,
it interesting how you can see stuff like that and be like, I wish I was just okay with
yeah,
just something like this,
yeah.
and how much peace that would bring. But hey, we all have our place. Um,
What would you
but
do? You got anything like that, or is this it? Are you content?
um, I want to do a lot of things, man. I'm one of those guys, man. I'm a I dream big, and before I was with TYT, I started a company, Politiscope. We was Forbes 30 under 30 because of that. Raised over $1 million in investment capital. So
Wow.
like, I have a decent amount of experience over a decade. I'm 31, but I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18. So throughout all that time, like I've been building up experience with just understanding process, knowing how to build things, knowing what I can and can't do, stuff like that. Um, so for instance, like I'm writing a fiction novel series that I want to turn into anime. I got to get
Oh,
there. I got to get there though. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
there's other drives I want to do. I want to fund this. I want to fund that. For me, ultimately, I feel that I have an opportunity to make all of that happen because the community around me is allowing me to. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who believe in me and the people who see me are giving me the gift not only to make my dreams reality and my visions a reality, but to be a leader. You know what I mean? Like to be the person who goes in and shakes things up, to be the person who people can count on. And I feel that responsibility more and more. So I think that for me, I just want to be myself. Honestly, I just want to be myself. That's ultimately what I want in my life. I want to be me, and I don't want to stop that. Like I don't want to stop. If in 3 years I have a completely new idea, I want to be able to do it. I want to be able to help other people do what they'd like to do. Um, so I'm not done discovering who and what I am. I don't think I really can answer that question. I don't think I'll ever fully know what I really am made of because I just let's go. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
let's make it happen. That so yeah.
Yeah, I can't sit still either. Is that how you unplug though? Fictional writing and that sort of creativity, or like because at some point you got to turn it off, right?
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I would say music. I unplug through music for sure. And yeah, man. I wouldn't call myself a hedonist. I wouldn't say that. I think that's a bit of an extreme. But I like like I like good things. I like good weed, you know what I'm saying? Like I like good food. I appreciate good art, good music. I like being outside. I like being able to appreciate things in life. I love women, you know what I'm saying? And I don't even mean in a devious way. Like I just love women. Like I'm not married. I'm 31. I'm young, you know what I'm saying? Like and I enjoy being in the company of a great woman. It doesn't even have to be sexual. It just the energy, the company, the women are amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'm coming to find um unplugging to me is just being able to enjoy cool things. It could be something nerdy. I'm always listening to nerdy stuff on YouTube. How atoms work and what happened 5,000 years ago, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Uh, do you think we're alone in the universe?
No, no,
Really?
I don't think that that's really plausible. I think that I mean there's so much to say, but I think that one, the fact that life exists here proves that life exists. the laws of physics work the same everywhere. And that being the case, uh, with the universe being as unimaginably vast and tiny at the same time as it is, I think it's kind of I don't think it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense to me that there's not life elsewhere, especially more simple life, microbial life, bacterial life, single cell. Um, I mean, there's just so much happening. Yeah, I don't think we're alone personally.
Yeah, I wonder though, are aliens and like other intelligent life in the universe, are they like us where they have really cool sneakers and cars but no health care and endless war? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I wonder if they figure, because if aliens came here and everyone still had to work their bullshit 9 to 5 job and half the country legalized weed and the other half will send you to prison for it, I don't really care if there's aliens. You know what I mean? But if they
Y-
come here and it's like, "Oh, okay, they provide technology where we can all chill out and, like, actually be happy and live and harmonious," then okay, that's
you know
awesome, but
that's an interesting question because it seems I feel like human beings are just fascinating to me. Underneath it all, and I'm going back to school in a couple years for anthropology.
mm,
Honestly, I'm really not that interested in politics. I'm interested in people,
yeah.
which kind of makes me just good at being in politics. But um, people are just fascinating, and it seems that we our intelligence developed faster than our innate beings of being in these small groups. And I know you've heard stuff like that before. But again, you'd think, we have all this ability to just understand how things work, to ask why, to ponder, to think back, to look forward. But at the same time, we're just as mortal as everything else. We're really not that different than any other living creature. Like, are we really that much more intelligent than everything else? Like, I mean, when you really look at it, our intelligence pretty much is it's social. It's communication related. Most of our technology is some kind of communication, whether it be trade, you know what I'm saying? Actually, like what we're doing right now, um, watching television, listening to radio. We're social creatures. Most of our inventions revolve around connecting with other people in some form or fashion. But other than that, we need food. We have to use the bathroom. We're trapped on this one rock. So if something was so intelligent to come all the way here, then they would have had to have evolved past just so much of our primitive needs,
Yeah.
and I just don't we're just we're just not there yet. We're very
There's
advanced but very primitive at the same time.
No, yeah, exactly, that's the perfect way to put it. I feel like there are pockets in the US that are very alien to me. Like, I grew up in Maryland, but I moved to Colorado and lived there for 25 years, or 23, 24 years,
Where
and
are you at
then
now?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Oh shit. Yeah, my parents just got back from Colorado. They were celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary.
See, and when I got to South Carolina, it was like landing on a planet, taking my helmet off and seeing if I could breathe or
Yeah.
if I was gonna what's the atmosphere like? And I was like,
Hmm.
"Okay, this is kinda like it's still the Earth, it's still America, but it's very different." And you know what's funny is I smoke weed every day from, like, 13 years old, and then I lived in Colorado. So you can imagine, it was like going to
Yeah.
Starbucks, and now I'm in South Carolina, and I don't do it at all. And the other day, I was sitting around just trying to remember what it was like and see if I could just make myself feel high.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
was
it's
like,
been
"Can I just fake it?"
yeah, but it's been so long now. You would be high. You would be high off your ass. You might be
I
you might be
I
too
was
high, but you might
I was
love it
pretty
though.
good at it, though. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
yeah.
know. Anyway,
Yeah. Your body knows what to expect.
I
But
wasn't able to simulate it.
that's also interesting because like when we think about the United States, why is that you can go to another state and you feel like you're in a totally different country because you are in a totally different
Yeah,
country. Like
Yeah.
literally, you are. That's all a state is. A state is a country. By definition, that's what it is. France is the size of Texas. What the United States is 50 English speaking countries united under one federal government in a couple of territories. The United States is huge. Like it
Mhm.
is huge. This is an empire. That you don't control this much land, not like because it's not all the same ethnicity of people. Now, obviously, we know there were many different kinds of Native Americans here, but that hasn't changed. There's many different kinds of people, so there is no real inherent American culture. There's the idea of one, but not really, because America's made up of so many different kinds of people from so many different kinds of places. And that ironically or unironically enough, that's typically the biggest issue that empires face, and that's a lot of what we're facing now. Different kinds of people, not necessarily skin color, but beliefs, ways of life, cultural distinctions, those types of things. It's difficult to house all of that under one blanket. This country has already gone through a civil war. I'm not saying that we're about to do that over Donald Trump. All I'm saying is that in fact, this is a lot of land, because this is an empire. This is not one single country. This is many countries. That's what America is, and it's just cool to think. Well, cool, interesting, whatever you want to call it, to think about. Because, like you said, you in South Carolina now. It's like you in a totally different place because you are.
Yeah. And I mean, in Colorado, people were debating in public. You'd hear somebody in a bar debating at the next table over about politics. And out here, everyone's like, yeah, we don't really talk about that. And on the one hand, it's because everyone's like minded. But on the other hand, they just don't talk about it. And it
Hmm.
makes for like kind of a chill environment where you can go out and talk to people and that's not going to come up. And
Yeah,
if I accidentally bring it up, people kind of wince like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. And I'm like, good.
yeah,
Okay. For now, we can not talk about it. I'll wait till I'm back on YouTube.
yeah.
Um, okay, so I never let my guest off the hook without recommending a comic book to them because when we're not talking about this stuff, we're doing art and comic book discussions.
Oh
Have you
yeah.
ever read comic books?
Um, I am a huge, major nerd. So I done read a bunch of the Star Wars books.
Wow.
I'm pretty knowledgeable about all the lore in a lot of the areas. I would like to read more manga and more comic books. I want to own more comic books. But so you can definitely recommend something to me. I probably haven't read it, but I want you to know that I am a major nerd. So anytime you have any recommendations along these lines, definitely send them my way.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
I do have one set aside for you tonight, but if you want to read more manga, I always recommend people get into Lone Wolf and Cub. Have you
Lone
ever
Wolf
heard of
and
that?
Cub. I haven't. I haven't. I'm texting that to myself right now. Lone
It
Wolf
is
and Cub.
the definitive samurai manga. It's from the 70s. They made a bunch of movies, TV series. They've gone the distance with this thing. They used to come in these little digest sized books that were kind of hard to get. Now they come in these omnibuses that are like, these things are like 700 pages each, right?
Hmm.
I've seen them used for like $5 because they're black and white and that makes it really affordable. But it's some
Yeah.
of the best comics and some of the best manga you can read. So check that out. But the
Lone
one
Wolf
that
and
I was
Cub. Okay.
The one I was gonna recommend tonight, because I like to let people know, and you probably get this, but a lot of my guests don't get this, and I want people to realize that the comics medium is more than just, superheroes, Batman, the Avengers, and that stuff. So what I was gonna recommend to you was a comic book by a guy called Brian Box Brown. They call him Box. Have you ever heard of him?
What's some of his work that he's done?
Okay, so this comic is called Cannabis, the illegalization of weed in America. What he does is he makes documentary graphic novels. So it's nonfiction. This one tells the history from the 19th century to the 21st century, cannabis legislation in America, and how that legislation and racism have been inextricably linked. In this searing nonfiction graphic novel, Box Brown sets his sights on this timely topic because it's not going anywhere. And so he's a huge weed advocate. He's got more than one comic about this, but this one in particular tells people about how the law has basically just been racist from day one, right? And
Brian
so
Box Brown, Cannabis, the illegalization of cannabis in America,
yeah, or of weed in America,
of
and
weed in America.
he's got a comic about Andre the Giant that won all kinds of awards.
Okay.
He's got one called the He-Man effect. It tells people how toys from the '80s shaped like your way of thinking and our current society, and it's amazing. He's fascinating. I had him on the show once. He's been on a lot of leftist podcasts.
Oh, cool.
He's really
Cool.
cool.
Yeah,
Um,
hell yeah, I'm definitely gonna look that up. And actually, I have a show that I do on Saturday mornings that's like pretty much solely dedicated to stuff like this, like
there you go.
comics and like nerd stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
we got some more material to look into now. And definitely Lone Wolf and Cub. I'm gonna have to ask my dad if he's familiar with that because he got me into anime. I mean, I remember some
Mm.
of the first animes that I saw were like Ghost in the Shell,
Oh yeah,
Ninja
yeah,
Scroll, and stuff like that. I watched Ninja Scroll recently, and I was like, everything about Naruto is Ninja Scroll.
yep,
I mean, Naruto, I love the show, but it's just, it's just cool how like how it works like that. Like you take little bits and pieces from this and that inspiration. You know what I mean? But yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, art influences art. It's not always a ripoff. Sometimes it's
Oh
just
no,
straight
no.
up influence and homage, right?
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
mean, how many things at this point, man? Nothing's truly unique. I mean, Star
right.
Wars is just space fighting, sword fighting wizards in space. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Yeah,
wizards in space fighting swords, but it's unique because of the story and the plot, and that's what I'm super big on. Man, if the writing is good, it could be a story about a person sitting on a rock, but they could be going through it in their head, and if it's written well, you'll just be page to page to page,
yep,
man. I love it.
exactly. All right, hey, this was fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. If you ever if when your nonprofit's up and running, if you ever want to come on and promote that, just feel free. You got an open invite, okay?
Absolutely. I'll be in contact with you. Just let what we got going on, and
Yeah,
keep you posted with stuff. And I'd love to do some work with you in the very near future for sure.
fantastic. Well, thanks again for coming on. This was
Yeah.
amazing. Shout out to Soul Life one more time
Yes.
for making it happen. And is there anything that you want to plug right now? What do you got going on like tomorrow?
Oh, well, yeah. If you anybody check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/at politics and paper. I do daily streams. I have a variety of other programs where we talk about, not non-related political stuff like the nerd stuff we just got through going, things about life, but also again, my membership program, we're solely dedicated to community service and local politics. So check me out at Politics and Paper on YouTube. And other than that, just stay tuned. I'm really excited about the future, and I had a great time with you. Had a really good
Yeah,
time.
me
Yeah.
too. Thanks a lot. And everyone, check out the description of this podcast for links to Politics and Paper. And thanks for being here tonight. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Sounds good.
Later.
All right.